Hello, love. Welcome back to the podcast. It's Nina with Passion Squared. I am a little sleepy today. I know many of you can relate to those days you wake up and you're like, whoa, I'm beat. I have taught 2 classes the last 2 nights, and I'm not a night person. I'm a morning person. I've always been a morning person. And you likely have heard me share many times about finding your rhythm and that it's all about rhythm. And some days we're going to be completely in our flow, and some days we're going to feel really off, and some days we're going to just be completely filled with just excitement and joy. All the days matter. And the best advice I can give is to surrender to it. And so that's how I'm feeling today as a morning person turned night person the last 2 nights. Whew. We're still doing the podcast. So last night, speaking of nights, last night we did a class for our community, for the Passion Squared community, called the Pricing Playbook, really talking about understanding the intersection, the relationship between brand story and pricing strategy. Literally the missing context out of all the pricing conversations in our industry, because most folks just simply don't understand brand fundamentals and how pricing is a function of marketing and brand strategy. And so context, right? I'm always bringing the context. And we got such an awesome question, not a question. I asked in the beginning of the class, what are some of your biggest struggles when it comes to pricing? And so the response to that question is what I want to dive deeper into in today's episode, because it was so good. And this awesome person who was in class said, pricing with my competitors, not having too high of price so that customers go to my competitors instead of me. Common. That's a common thought, sometimes a common fear that, well, if my prices are too high, then people are going to go here, or so it made me think about a blog post that I wrote for Passion Squared in October of 2014. And I'm going to read you the blog post and then we'll talk more about it. It's such an important thing to remember is when we look at our own salon brands, our own brands, whatever brand, whether you have a salon brand or not, that we have to remember that you get to determine who you're serving, those people that you're serving. You get to determine the experience that you design. You get to determine the price for those experiences. And if it's only about price, that's kind of a race to the bottom, right? Because it's like, well, this haircut's $30, where I'm going to do $25 haircuts. And then the business down the street is going to say, well, I'm going to do $22 haircuts. And then the business, that is not at all how I recommend going about marketing, creating your brand story, all of those types of things. So let's get into this blog. Okay, as Theodore Roosevelt famously said, comparison is the thief of joy. It can be a thief in business too. On Saturday, I posted the above image to Instagram with the following message. So the above image was, remind yourself you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. So that's the context for this. And here was the caption to that post back in 2014. Often when working with small businesses, I hear something like this. Well, the business down the street is charging this or promoting this or ... Should I do that? Awesome businesses are created when you define your own brand story, your own brand purpose, promise, people, target market, set clear objectives, create a badass strategy, and execute like a motherfucker. Focus on creating your own kind of awesome. So that was the caption to that post back in 2014 that inspired me to write this blog. It was one of the more liked posts recently, but this topic requires more time and explanation than an Instagram post. So here it goes. Yes, studying success and awesomeness of other businesses is important. Learning from the greats, the ones who have consistently shown growth and profitability, the ability to create a strong culture, etc. Having an in-depth knowledge of those who have successfully gone before you, yes, all of that is awesome and important. However, when we are comparing our business to the one down the street, this is where I have issues. One, do you know their business model? Now, in the context of salons, business model could be employment-based versus lease-based. Two, do you know their strategy and target market? Brand story. So do you know their brand purpose, what problems they're solving? Do you know their brand promise, how they solve those problems? Do you know their brand people? Who are the people they wish to serve? Do you know what their plans are, their marketing plan? Do you even know their revenue, their sales? Do you know their profit margins, their profitability? Do you know their cost of sales? One person could own their building outright with no mortgage, and the other person could have a big fat mortgage. It's just an example. Do you know how they're being funded? Where's the money coming from? In some cases, they could have investors. They could have 7 different side hustles that's actually paying for a lot of their salon business. Do you know how long they'll be in business? I mean, no, right? Do you know if their clients are happy? Nah, I don't know. Do you know if their team is happy or tenants? My guess is no. I mean, you don't know. We don't know. Therefore, how can we even begin to compare our business to theirs? How can we compare our brand to theirs? What if we decided to follow a pricing strategy of a competitor that was headed down a road of putting them out of business? A great example of this in the salon industry is when it comes to compensation in employment-based salons. And through decades of real life statistics, real life case studies, real life numbers, actual salons in business for decades, there is a point where if you pay a commission percentage that is so high, you will not stay in business unless you are not there to be a profitable business and you just have money flowing in and it doesn't matter. So that's a great example of that. What if we followed a pricing strategy or a compensation strategy of a competitor that was heading down a road of putting them out of business? It's a great example of that. Or a promotional program that depleted all cash flow and pissed off clients and team members. Remember, this was written in 2014. So that kind of reminds me of the, oh my gosh, what was the deal site? The deal site where it screwed all these small businesses, including salons. The thing that sold like $10 haircuts, like get a $50 haircut for 10. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I don't remember it. Anyways, I know you know what I'm talking about. So that, I believe that's probably what I was speaking to in 2014. Before you look around one more time to see what others are doing, it's time to take a look within. Look at your own brand, your own objectives, your own desired outcomes, your own plans, your own strategies, your own profit and loss statements, your own business model. Start there. I know it's hard with being online so much. It's hard to not get distracted by seeing all these shiny objects, or what we are projecting to be shiny objects. Because, so much of this is about our own narratives that we project onto people. We create whole stories around people, right? That we think like, oh my gosh, like we see someone in a certain outfit or at a certain vacation spot, and we create a whole story in our head about what that is, right? So we're human. This is natural. This is why we do these things. However, it is a distraction for your business. It is a distraction for your business. And that's reason number 8 trillion why we focus on the fundamentals, starting with brand story. Because once you have clarity around that, then the distractions are relevant, because you already know, oh, we're not the same. Like, we're not the same brand. We don't have the same business model. We don't have the same brand people. We don't have the same brand promise. We don't have the same brand purpose. We don't have the same blah, blah, on and on and on. And they were like, oh yeah, I can admire them, or I could even study them. However, I'm not comparing to them. I am not making strategic decisions for my business based on what they are doing, because it's not relevant. It's not relevant. So I want you to think about that. I can't believe I wrote that in 2014. The business down the street. Before we go, I wanted to thank you all so much for sharing your experience with this podcast on Apple Podcast. I saw we got a couple new reviews and ratings. By doing that, you are helping other folks like you discover this podcast and hopefully add value to their lives, as you've shared this podcast has add value to your life and business, of course. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. You can find Passion Squared on the socials at Passion Squared. You can find us on the internet at passionsquared.net. You can find our Creating Your Awesome Brand course, a complete course for beauty pros, here in the show notes of this episode. I just know how much clarity of brand story can eliminate so many of the consistent, never-ending, ongoing dysfunctions, challenges, problems, pain points, all the things that are just that we struggle with. It all starts with clarity of brand. It always is going to start with clarity of brand. Stay focused. The business down the street, you can love them and admire them, but please stop comparing online and off. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to be where your feet are. Remember that business and life are all rhythm. There are going to be days when you are in your flow, days you're flying high, and days like I'm having today where I'm just a little sleepy. All the days matter, and so do you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a peaceful day. Bye.